So it is now 4 o'clock. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So it's 4. I had talked to a couple folks who I thought would join, a couple other members. So maybe if it's okay with the group, we'll give another minute or two before we kind of get started. We do have a quorum. We have 4 out of 7, so we're okay to conduct business. I was hoping we'd have everyone because it's time to talk about officers. Here we go. Hey, David, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you. Can y'all
Okay,
hear me?
good. Yes, we can. I was going to say for YouTube, this is live streaming on YouTube. So yes, I was going to say if you have a camera, that will make sure it actually shows the square on the screen. And it looks like Councilwoman Arth has joined us. Okay, we've got Beverly coming on now. So yeah, we may get close to everyone. Afternoon, Violet.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. My headphones are not working, so we'll see what happens. There we go. Okay.
Looks like Beverly's joined in now.
Hey.
Hey, Beverly, and I was just kind of keep everybody on the same page. We are live streaming on YouTube, so that is live now. And the only way you will show up on that is if you have your camera turned on. So if you have access to a camera, that may be beneficial.
Okay. I'm having a hard time getting my laptop to come up, so I'm
Okay.
on my cell phone at the moment.
Okay. It will certainly, your voice will be heard. It just won't have a picture or a kind of a box associated with it. So if that happens that it's available later, you can certainly switch over and that'll be fine.
Okay.
And it looks like we have everyone, I think, except Patrick Murray. And David actually just texted me. He had some issues with his computer, so he's trying to do a restart. So we're getting close to full attendance today. So we'll give, if it's okay, we'll give David just a few minutes to get his computer sorted out. The first item on the agenda was to have some discussion around the election of officers. So I think it'd be great to have as many as we can here for that. And there's Patrick, so it's good. And David said he's trying to dial in now. Hey, Patrick, just to give you an update, we are now streaming live on YouTube. So you've got your camera up, so we should be good to go. We are waiting on David. He had an issue with his computer and he's trying to dial back in. And then we'll get started. Well, It's 4:05. I'm sure David will get his computer restarted. Sometimes that does take a while, but I don't want to, take too long to get started. Be respectful of everyone's time. So appreciate everybody taking time to log in and be a part of this Public Art Advisory Board. As I mentioned last meeting, one of the main things we need to do or discuss at this meeting is to elect officers. And at this point, we have the positions of chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer that would need to be filled. Obviously, the chair would take the role of managing the meetings and formulating the agenda, obviously with my assistance. So a lot of that actual work will be done on my end, but in the managing of the meeting, that would fall to the chair. Vice chair would assist in that role as needed based upon the absence of the chair. The secretary is typically responsible or tasked with taking minutes, and I will assist with that as needed or as requested. And then the treasurer role, I would largely envision that once we get kind of that initial work plan developed and establish an annual budget for this, that position would then just, with the assistance of staff, just report to the board on the revenues and expenditures associated with that. So I don't expect any of these positions will be too demanding from a time allocation standpoint. You'll be able to lean on city staff to provide a bulk of that, but it's more of just reporting to the board and for the positions of chair and vice chair running these meetings, which necessarily won't be through Zoom going forward. We'll discuss that later in the meeting as well, how you'd like to proceed with that. But I'm just going to stop talking and open the floor to discussion. I know some of you have had some thoughts about a particular position or otherwise, but open it up and see what you all think. Not everybody at once. Did anybody give it any thought to any of these positions? Have any questions about them that I might be able to answer?
So for vice chair, I'm sorry, I was not at the last meeting. Somehow I missed the notification for that. But I know for many boards, that is the person that then would take on the role of chair in the future. Is that the case for this board, or would we just reelect somebody differently or reappoint somebody differently?
Well, I think that is certainly up to this board how they want to handle that. You are correct. On some boards, that is kind of the flow. Maybe it starts with the treasurer, secretary, vice chair, and then chair. So kind of they move up those. It doesn't have to be that way. We have city boards where the chair has been the chair for 15 years or more in some cases. And we do have some, though, where they work through that rotation. And I think that's completely up to this board. And also, I would say if someone were in the vice chair position and they just did not want to assume the chair role or it wasn't convenient at that time, that's always an option, is to decline that nomination. Good question, though. Anybody else?
You just want to ask if anybody wants to volunteer?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
That's what we're looking for, volunteers. I know we have lots of experience on this board with art, so I think anyone would certainly be capable of any of these roles. So don't be bashful.
I'll be willing to serve in any capacity except secretary. I don't like to take notes. So, and I'll be honest with you, I don't, of all of those positions, the role of treasurer probably seems the easiest because I can envision these finances are going through the city offices. And so, this is just how my mind thinks. I rule out what I don't want to do, and then I'd start looking at what would be the easier of the ones. But So I'm just throwing that out there. And anyway.
So you're throwing your hat in the ring for treasurer? That's not what I heard.
I could do that. Or, if nobody else wants to be chair, I'll be glad to do that.
Oh,
But
I think Patrick said he'd be chair.
okay,
Be
great.
I think
Right.
I
Right,
did hear that.
Patrick?
Yep.
Cool.
And
I think
Celeste,
that's wonderful.
absolutely. And Celeste, did you volunteer for vice chair?
Vice chair?
I was just echoing that I think Patrick would make a great chair, but if nobody else is interested in being vice chair, I am happy to do that.
Okay.
I've never served on a board like this before, so I don't really feel comfortable being a official note taker, as my note taking skills are not super great, and my money skills aren't super great either. And if somebody else wants to be vice chair, that's cool, but that would be the role I think I would be the most reasonable at.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And like I said, I will certainly assist with the taking of notes in that. So you'll see me, in fact, look down and scribble some things throughout this meeting, and that's what I'm doing, taking notes. So next meeting we can approve those, and we'll also approve the minutes of the initial meeting as well. So there's not going to be a huge burden there. Really, it's, we're meeting 6 times a year, so just not a.
Are there plans to meet in person?
Well, I think so. I mean, I would prefer that, but I do have that as a item to discuss next. Is how you'd like to proceed with that and when, and location, various things we need to choose there. So we have so far, Patrick McMurray has volunteered for chair. Celeste and I think Casey have both volunteered for vice chair. No secretary, and Shara has volunteered to serve as treasurer.
I'm gonna push Kayla to volunteer as secretary if she feels so led to. I think that it would look really, really amazing on any resume. I mean, it's already so amazing that you are on this board at all, but I'm just gonna put that little bug in your ear, Kayla. I know you might not feel super confident about that, but I know how well you would do taking on any leadership role. Do you have anything about that?
I think that would be great.
Oh, I don't think I can't hear you, Kayla.
Yeah, I can't. We can't quite hear you, Kayla.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was just saying that I don't really feel comfortable doing that just because this is my first time being on anything like this. And I'm not a very good note taker or anything like that.
Okay,
Just
Okay.
for the, Justin, just for the record, this is not only live streaming, but recorded, correct?
These are, yes. As long as we're on
Okay.
YouTube, they are.
Which anyone who chooses to be secretary should be aware of. You can go back and watch the videos to take notes.
And that may or may not be the case when we get to in-person meetings, but right now that is the case, absolutely.
well, I'm happy to take notes. I think
Okay.
it's a great introductory role for anyone who's new to boards, as somebody who's been secretary of boards in the past. So just encourage everybody who feels intimidated by that to pick that up in the future. But I'm happy to do it for now.
Okay. Well, that is fantastic. So I'm going to review what I have as the folks who have volunteered for the various positions. So chair, I have Patrick McMurray, vice chair, Casey Quinn, secretary, Celeste Burkhart, and treasurer, Shara Miller. Are there any other folks who are interested in a position? If not, I think we can, by a show of hands, nominate these folks and appoint them unless anyone has any further discussion. Okay, no discussion, then I'll just ask for a show of hands in favor of affirming the slate of officers as I earlier stated.
Justin, just for reference, I can't vote, right?
Correct, that's correct.
That's what I thought.
Nor can
Okay,
I.
cool. Right, okay.
Okay. Can I just have a show of hands one more time? I'm sorry. Okay, that is unanimous. So, okay. Well, congratulations. We have our first board officers filled. So I will have that in the notes and I'll send that out and update your profiles going forward. So thank you. I appreciate that. That is obviously it takes on additional responsibility. And like I said, I'm certainly here to assist you as we go through the meetings and for preparation and for clarification on notes or budget or anything like that. So don't feel like you're out there on a limb by yourself. You have resources available and I'm happy to assist as needed. Technically, I guess I'll turn it over to Patrick. And Patrick, you had mentioned how meeting in person, and I guess that is the next thing is to kind of get a feel for the board as to how they'd like to continue meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for early January, January 10th. So I'll toss that over to you, Patrick. You may be moving location.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry. I was talking and I was muted. I missed what you said for about 15 seconds. So we're talking about location?
Yes, yes. So I think we just kind of want to gauge the board's thoughts about meeting in person. I know, you know, our trends in Cleveland County have certainly gotten better over the past few weeks. You know, obviously COVID is still out there, and I understand, you know, cautions around meeting in person, or some folks have hesitancy with that. But if this board is open to that, we have space available. We have places where we can spread out. The police department has a community room that's at 130 West Warren Street in Uptown. We have our utility operations center has a kind of a training room that is pretty large. That's at 824 West Grover Street. And then it's a little bit smaller of a room, but we do have a conference room at our airport that we could use. That's at 830 College Avenue. I would have to check schedules to make sure that they're not occupied during this time, but those are the larger spaces that the city has available.
I personally don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but I like meeting in person. As I talk with a frog in my throat because I've had a cold, but again, if anybody's uncomfortable with doing that at the time, please let us know.
I'm comfortable with meeting in person. I just think I would like to see us just revisit that as numbers change. I think everybody would be amenable to that, but just want to make sure I say that out loud. Like
and we're a smaller board, so we, you know, if we met at that police station conference room, we could really spread out. But the airport sounds cool too.
Yeah.
We've got some space available too that we could use if needed, if any of those other spaces are occupied. And I think with a board the size, we could definitely social distance in person if the group so wishes.
And we've got plenty of room here too at the Arts Council. So I think I'm like Patrick, I'm kind of getting over a sinus infection or a cold, but I think meeting in person is, I would much rather do that.
Yeah. That'll be at the beginning of January, Justin?
Yes, it's January 10th, which is a Monday at 4.
Okay. So we can just, let's just play that by ear. And if anybody feels uncomfortable, just let Justin or myself know.
Okay. Yeah, I will need to notice our public meetings and our permanent location. So what I'll do, I'll go ahead and find out what options are available. We can communicate by email on a physical meeting location. And then, yeah, we can narrow that down. If we need to switch to Zoom, obviously that's no problem. We can do that at any time. We'll just need to make sure it fits with Chip so he can get us on YouTube as well. So we'll, what I'll do, I'll go ahead and determine the location and email out the group so we can be on the same page and just kind of be flexible as things change.
Okay.
Okay. Good deal. So that, the next item I had was just kind of other items to discuss if the board had anything they wanted to bring up. I'll mention just a couple things. We do have a couple things that may be coming up that I'll bring to this board for review or consideration. Most of you have probably been aware of the Uptown Streetscape project that completed earlier this year. There are a few final things that are outside of the construction contract, but are amenities to Uptown. So one is bike racks that will be placed throughout Uptown. And the other are the potential for some type of finial or decorative enhancement to the poles, the mast arm poles in Uptown. So what I envision is that maybe some samples or options could be brought to this board for input on what may go as far as bike racks or the design of a finial on those mast arm posts. So I'm not sure exactly when that will be. I know city staff are working to determine locations and then what options might be available for both of those things. But I think this board certainly with its, focus on art, and that can be a piece of art in Uptown. It doesn't have to be, all murals or paintings. That'd be a physical art piece. So a good way to start and kind of wade into that area, especially as we know these things are already budgeted for. They've got to be placed. It's just a matter of what form they take. So just be aware of that. I'll be bringing that to you soon, I hope.
What's the end of the city's fiscal year?
June 30.
Okay. Is there a goal to keep a like a unified aesthetic in things that would be permanent like that?
There is. Typically what you've seen Uptown are those black metal benches. They would probably be within the at least the same design scope or design area element of that. Although I will say with a bike rack, you can go many different ways. I've seen some pretty creative stuff. I think actually within the public art plan, there is some examples of, some pretty unique designs for bike racks. So, that's one of those things where we could go completely different. It just depends on location. And it may not be all of them. It may be some that are placed in certain locations that are different. Because one thing we'll want to think about then is along the rail trail corridor as that begins to develop, how that will look and how those bike racks and other features may need to look. So yeah, I mean, it's in some areas we may want to hold tight to that particular design, and some we may want to go just totally off script. And I think this board could provide some good input on that. So that'll be coming up. One other thing, I want to make sure everyone has a copy of the public art plan. I emailed that out, so you should have a copy, but if for some reason you don't, or if you need a printed copy, let me know and I can get that to you. Some of the things to be thinking about on that, on page 5, talks about the short-term priorities of this board. We have done a few of those things at the top, but talking about a strategy for fundraising. So what does the budget need to look like for this as far as funding public art? Are there grant opportunities, and creating a work plan? So a work plan I would think might be one of the first things we would like to do. And that can include priority locations for where we want to establish art, what types of art you think might be most appropriate for those areas. And then do we want to have some type of study completed or other document completed to maybe compile those areas, those opportunities for art and where they are throughout the city. And then public engagement. At some point in time, we may want to put together a survey or some other type of document that takes on public input, finds out what the public thinks about public art, what it might look like and where it might take place. So just some things to be thinking about as you think about upcoming meetings and how we want to gather those around. If you have thoughts, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email and we can talk a little offline about that if you're trying to work through and have a question or how that needs to come back to the board. But those are certainly some things that I think would be very helpful as we move, in towards a budget, an annual budget. We'll need to be able to show City Council what this board intends to do with those dollars so that they can then get included. And we'll start, from a city standpoint, we'll start our budgeting process for the upcoming year. So July 1, 2022, we will start that budget process in January of 2022. So it's never too early to start thinking about your ideas, what you think that might need to look like, especially from an information gathering standpoint, and putting together a document of where art may need to go. So just a heads up on some of those things that should be coming up on your radar. Patrick, I don't know if you had anything else or wanted to open it up to the board.
Well, I do not see that document in my email from you. So
Okay.
if you could send that to me. And then
I have the presentation, but not the plan.
Okay. I'll just resend it to the entire board to make sure you all have that.
And in the meantime, it's been a couple of years since I've been board chair of anything, so I'll go over the Robert rules and try to get that back in my mind.
Sounds good. I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Is there any way that we could maybe get a printed copy of the public art plan at the next board meeting when we meet in person potentially?
Sure, absolutely. I can just go have those printed and we can bind them here in house if you prefer them, or if you prefer them in a 3-ring binder, we can do it that way.
Whichever. I just feel like some note margins and highlighting ability would be useful.
Okay, absolutely.
Are we going to tentatively then aim for the police department conference room for that January 10th meeting?
That works fine. I'll just confirm that it's available at this time. Otherwise, yeah, I think that'd be a great place. It's kind of central and it's easily accessible. So, and there's plenty of room to spread out and audio visual equipment if it's needed right there. So I think it would work fine. Sorry,
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to go over today?
Justin, you mentioned maybe tying in some similar elements with the art trail, rail trail, for other things. Is there any update on any kind of drawings or renderings for the rail trail? Just general updates or any kind of renderings?
So we don't have anything updated. We do have the a preliminary layout for the Depot Park area, but we do not have updated design plans for the actual trail. Those are being worked on right now. So I think the first phase, which is essentially Marion Street back to Grover, is to be completed in early 2022 from a design perspective. Now, what we may have earlier than that, though, and we're currently working on that with Destination by Design, is the branding of that trail. And I would give that's still probably 3 months out, but I think before they'll have that 2 to 3 months. But that may be an element that will help us as we begin to think about what those things may look like, is just that overall brand and how we may want that to be a, kind of a cohesive theme throughout the rail trail corridor. So,
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And as those come out, I'll be sure to share those with the board as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else have any news? No? Well, I guess if I can get a motion to adjourn, right, Justin?
Yes, that is the next thing on my agenda.
Okay.
Is the motion to adjourn. That's usually not a hard one to get.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? All right.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I do appreciate it. I appreciate those of you who volunteered for officer positions, and I will be sending out some emails over the next couple of days. And don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you,
Thank-
everybody.
Thank you.